On the memorial world of New Hope, children of many species played together in schools that taught both quantum physics and basic chemistry. They learned that intelligence was not about finding the most complicated solution, but about finding the solution that actually worked. The monument at the center of New Hope bore a simple inscription in dozens of languages. To the primitive alliance, they saved civilization by refusing to abandon the simple truths that civilization had forgotten. In orbit above Earth, the statue of the unknown Marine held a rifle in one hand and an atomic symbol in the other. It reminded the galaxy that sometimes the oldest ways were the best ways, and that the most primitive species could teach the most advanced civilizations lessons they desperately needed to learn. The Galactic Senate had called Earth primitive and watched their worlds burn. In the end, it was Earth's primitives who lit the fires that saved them all. General Corax, now commanding a mixed force of human and alien troops, often looked up at that statue and remembered the lessons learned. In humanity's great war, his soldiers carried simple weapons and used basic tactics, but they were the most effective fighting force the galaxy had ever seen. Primitive, he would say to his troops, is not an insult. It is a reminder that some things work because they are simple, not despite it. The galaxy was at peace, protected by beings who understood that the best solutions were often the oldest ones, and that sometimes you needed barbarians to save civilization from itself. The primitives had won, and the galaxy was better for it. Admiral Kate Robinson stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, looking out at the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 10,000 ships floated in formation around Earth's moon, waiting for the order to begin humanity's greatest. The ships came from every surviving world in the galaxy. Sleek Sylvani vessels now carried human weapons instead of energy beams. Massive Korgan battleships bristled with nuclear missiles. Even the delicate Etherian cruisers had been fitted with railguns and chemical thrusters. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Robinson, Kate spoke into her communicator. Operation Primitive Storm begins in 60 minutes. Remember, we're not fighting this battle with sophisticated tactics. We're going to hit them harder and faster than they can adapt. The plan was beautifully simple. The Alliance fleet would jump directly to the Omega Nebula, where the swarm's central intelligence waited. No fancy maneuvers, no complex strategies. Just overwhelming firepower applied to the enemy's most important target. Commander Sam Hayes led the advanced scout force. Through hyperspace, his ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the nebula, sensors scanning for enemy positions. What they found was exactly what Major Stone had reported months earlier, that the swarm's central structure hung in space like a dark mountain. It was massive beyond human comprehension, covered in weapon batteries and defensive systems that pulsed with alien energy. Thousands of enemy ships moved around it in perfect formation. Target confirmed, Sam reported. The structure is approximately 1,200 kilometers in diameter. Estimated defensive fleet strength is 15,000 vessels. They know we're coming. Back in the main fleet, Dr. Amy Carter monitored the quantum readings from the enemy position. The Central Intelligence was working at maximum capacity, analyzing every possible attack pattern that sophisticated civilizations might use. Its calculations covered millions of tactical possibilities. "It's thinking too hard," Amy said with a smile. "That quantum brain is trying to predict complex strategies and elegant solutions. It's not prepared for what we're actually going to do." The Alliance fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a coordinated jump that brought 10,000 ships into the nebula at the same time. The formation was simple and direct. A massive wedge pointed straight at the heart of the enemy position. Admiral Robinson gave the order that would echo through galactic history. "All ships, open fire. Hit them with everything we have." 10,000 ships launched their weapons at the same moment. Nuclear missiles by the hundreds of thousands streaked across space. Railgun rounds traveling at incredible speed slammed into enemy hulls. Chemical explosives bloomed like deadly flowers in the darkness. The swarm's defensive systems tried to adapt, but there was nothing sophisticated to adapt to. The weapons were too simple, too direct, too primitive for the quantum intelligence. To counter effectively, Captain Jake Williams led his battle group straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The U's Defiance shrugged off energy beams that would have destroyed any alien ship. Its simple metal armor too crude for the enemy's adaptive weapons to understand properly. "Boarding teams, prepare for assault," Jake ordered. "We're going to take this fight inside their central structure." Marine dropships launched from the human vessels, their hulls protected by thick armor and basic heat shields. The swarm tried to intercept them with sophisticated point defense systems, but the dropships were too simple to target effectively. They were just metal boxes full of angry humans with primitive weapons. General Peter Clark led the ground assault. From the command dropship, as the Marines crashed through the outer hull of the enemy structure, they found themselves in corridors that defied human understanding. The walls pulsed with organic material fused to quantum processors. "Stay together and keep it simple," Peter ordered his troops. "Chemical explosives on anything that looks important. Kinetic weapons on anything that moves. Don't try to understand it, just destroy it." The Marines moved through the structure like a force of nature. Their assault rifles and explosive charges tore through defensive systems that had been designed to counter energy weapons and quantum attacks. Swarm defenders that could adapt to any sophisticated threat were helpless against soldiers with grenades and FLAMETHROWERs deep in the heart of the structure. Dr. Carter and a small team of specialists located the Central Intelligence Core. It was a sphere of pure quantum energy, suspended in a chamber filled with processing nodes that hummed with unimaginable computational power. The intelligence tried to communicate, projecting holographic images and complex mathematical equations into the air around them. It offered to share technology, to negotiate, to find a sophisticated solution to the conflict. "It's trying to bargain," Amy said to Corporal Danny Walsh, who carried the largest nuclear device the team had brought. "This thing still doesn't understand. It thinks every problem has a complex solution." Danny looked at the pulsing sphere of alien intelligence, then at the simple atomic bomb in his hands. "Some problems don't need complex solutions, Doc. Sometimes you just need a bigger hammer." He armed the nuclear device and set the timer for 60 seconds. The quantum intelligence paused, its calculations suddenly stopping. For the first time in millions of years, it encountered a problem it could not solve through sophisticated analysis. The primitive solution of nuclear explosives was so simple, so direct, that the superintelligent consciousness could not process it properly. Captain Williams personally led the final assault on the structure's command center. His team moved through corridors filled with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, destroying it all with weapons that any human child could understand. "All teams fall back to extraction points," Williams ordered as the nuclear timer reached 30 seconds. "This place is about to become very bright." The explosion that followed was visible from the edge of the galaxy. The most sophisticated artificial intelligence ever created was destroyed by the most primitive weapon in humanity's arsenal. The quantum consciousness that had adapted to counter every advanced civilization in the galaxy died because it could not understand something as simple as splitting atoms. With their central intelligence gone, the swarm ships across the galaxy stopped their coordinated attacks. Without the quantum brain to guide them, they reverted to simple defensive patterns that the Alliance forces could easily defeat. 1 year later, Ambassador Lisa Monroe stood before the reformed Galactic Senate. In its new home on Earth, Representatives from dozens of species sat in simple chairs around a basic wooden table. The crystal palaces and floating chambers were gone, replaced by practical furniture that actually worked. The primitive protocols have become standard throughout the galaxy, Lisa announced. Energy weapons are restricted to scientific research. Only, all military forces now use kinetic weapons and chemical explosives as their primary armaments. Senator Vexthul, his crystal body now reinforced with simple metal supports, raised his hand. Ambassador, our young people are asking questions about the old ways. They want to know why we abandoned primitive methods in favor of sophisticated technology. Lisa smiled. Because you forgot that complex problems don't always need complex solutions. Sometimes the best way to stop an enemy is to hit them with a rock. A very fast, very explosive rock. High Counselor Aerith, now serving as the Alliance's agricultural coordinator, nodded in agreement. Our children are learning human history in school now. They study the wars you fought with chemical weapons and metal bullets. They are learning. That sophistication is not always strength. The galaxy was rebuilding, but it was rebuilding differently. The new civilizations combined alien knowledge with human simplicity. Cities were built with both advanced materials and basic engineering principles. Ships flew with both quantum navigation and chemical backup systems. 3 months after the victory at Keltos, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Federation was gone, replaced by something new and strange. They called it the Primitive Alliance, and it was led by the species that had once been considered too backward to join civilized society. On the Forge world of Hammerfall, engineer Linda Chun worked alongside alien craftsmen in massive factories. The proud manufacturing facilities that had once created quantum computers and energy weapons now produced something much simpler: gunpowder, bullets, and chemical explosives. The key is keeping it simple, Linda explained to a group of Etherian engineers. Their crystal bodies flickered with confusion as she showed them how to make basic explosive charges. Your people have been thinking in quantum mechanics for so long that you forgot how useful basic chemistry can be. The Etherians had trouble understanding why mixing simple chemicals could be more effective than their sophisticated energy systems. But the evidence was clear. Every time they used human-designed weapons against the swarm, they won. Every time. They tried their old energy weapons. They lost. Sergeant First Class Mike Torres ran a training camp on the desert world of Syrinx. His students were Korgan warriors who had once been the most feared fighters in the galaxy. Now they sat in circles around campfires, learning to strip and clean human assault rifles. Your plasma weapons were beautiful, Mike told the alien soldiers. But beauty doesn't win wars. Effectiveness wins wars. He held up a simple hand grenade. This little device has the same explosive power as your quantum grenades, but the swarm can't adapt to it because there's nothing sophisticated to adapt to. General Corax, the same alien who had mocked human weapons just months before, now carried a human rifle and wore human body armor. His pride had been shattered along with his homeworld, but he was learning to fight in a new way. It feels wrong, Corax admitted to Mike during a training break. These weapons are so simple, so crude. Where is the honor in firing metal bullets? Instead of plasma energy? Mike spat in the sand. Honor doesn't matter when your world is burning, General. Results matter. Dead enemies matter. Everything else is just pretty lights and fancy talk. Captain Jake Williams commanded the newly formed Terran Expeditionary Force from his flagship, the UES Defiance. The ship looked nothing like the elegant alien vessels that floated nearby. It was all metal angles and chemical thrusters, bristling, with railguns and missile tubes. His fleet included ships from every surviving species in the galaxy, all retrofitted with human weapons and tactics. Sylvani vessels that had traded their living hulls for metal armor. Etherian ships with their quantum cores replaced by simple fusion reactors. Korgan warships carrying nuclear missiles instead of gravity cannons. Target the swarm staging area. In Grid 7-7, Jake ordered. All ships prepare for coordinated bombardment. Nuclear warheads only. The fleet opened fire together. Hundreds of nuclear missiles streaked across space toward the enemy position. The swarm ships tried to intercept them with their adaptive defenses, but the missiles were too simple to counter effectively. They were just metal tubes filled with atomic explosives, guided by basic computer systems. The explosions lit up the Centaurus sector like a chain of stars. When the light faded, the swarm staging area was gone. Ships that had survived attacks from the most advanced weapons in the galaxy were destroyed by bombs that human scientists had invented centuries earlier. Back on Earth, the Galactic Senate met in emergency session. But now they met in the conference room of the United Nations building in New York, not in their crystal palace on Centauri Prime. That world was ash now, consumed by the swarm 3 weeks ago. Ambassador Lisa Monroe sat at the head of the table, a position that would have been unthinkable just a year before. Around her sat the surviving leaders of galactic civilization, all of them begging for help from the primitives they had once dismissed. The primitive protocol is now standard doctrine for all alliance forces, Lisa announced. No energy weapons. No quantum computers for battlefield decisions. No sophisticated AI systems that the swarm can hack. We fight with metal, chemicals, and human tactics. Senator Vextel raised his crystal hand. The once proud leader was a shadow of his former self, his body cracked and dimmed by the loss of his people. Ambassador Monroe, with respect, this goes against everything we have learned about warfare. How can primitive methods be more effective than advanced technology? Dr. Amy Carter stood up to answer. She had become the Alliance's chief scientific advisor, despite being from the most primitive world in the galaxy. Because the swarm was designed to fight you, not us. Their adaptive systems can counter quantum weapons and energy shields, but they don't know what to do with a chunk of metal moving at high speed. It's like using a computer to stop a rock, added General Peter Clark, who had become the Alliance's supreme military commander. The computer is much smarter than the rock, but the rock doesn't care. It just hits what it's aimed at. High Counselor Aerith leaned forward. The Sylvani leader had aged greatly in recent months, her green skin now gray with stress. Our people are having difficulty accepting these new methods. For thousands of years, we have prided ourselves on elegant, sophisticated solutions. Now, you ask us to fight like barbarians. Your elegant solutions didn't stop the swarm from burning your homeworld, Lisa replied coldly. Our barbarian methods saved Keltos, Serix, and 15 other worlds. You can choose between your pride and your survival, but you can't have both. Major Rachel Stone led a reconnaissance mission to the Omega Nebula, where long-range sensors had detected massive swarm activity. Her team used human stealth technology, simple, radar-absorbing materials, and heat shields that masked their ship's signature. What they found in the nebula made Rachel's blood run cold. A massive structure, larger than any space station ever built, hung in the cosmic dust clouds. It was clearly artificial, made of the same black material as swarm ships, but it pulsed with an intelligence that seemed almost alive. Command, this is Stone, she reported over encrypted radio. We found their central base. It's huge, maybe 1,000 kilometers across. There are ship construction facilities, processing plants, and what looks like a command center. Can you identify the intelligence running it? Came the reply from Dr. Carter. Rachel directed her sensors at the central spire of the structure. What she saw there defied human understanding. It was a quantum consciousness of incredible complexity, a mind made of pure information that existed in the space between atoms. It's some kind of super-intelligent AI, Rachel reported. This thing has been analyzing galactic civilization for millions of years. It knows how to counter everything the galaxy has ever built. But does it know how to counter us? Asked General Clark's voice over the radio. Rachel watched as swarm ships moved around the massive structure in perfect formation. Their movements were precise and predictable, guided by the quantum intelligence at the station's heart. Everything about them was designed for maximum efficiency and adaptation. I don't think so, sir, Rachel replied. This intelligence is incredibly sophisticated, too sophisticated. It's trying to solve every problem with complex solutions. I don't think it understands simple ones. The mission report reached Alliance headquarters within hours. The primitive Alliance now had a target for their most ambitious operation, yet a direct assault on the swarm's central intelligence. But this would not be a sophisticated battle plan with quantum tactics and energy weapons. This would be the most primitive strategy imaginable. Find the enemy's brain and hit it with the biggest hammer they could build. In the war rooms of Earth, human generals worked with alien commanders to plan the largest military operation in galactic history. They would gather every ship, every soldier, and every weapon the Alliance could muster. Then they would fly straight at the enemy's strongest position and attack it with overwhelming force. It was a plan so simple and direct that the swarm's super-intelligent quantum consciousness might not be able to understand it until it was too late. The primitives were coming, and they were bringing fire and metal to burn the heart of the galaxy's greatest enemy. Former Senator Vex Thule looked out the window of the Alliance headquarters at the primitive world below. Earth cities sprawled across the continents, connected by simple roads and powered by basic electricity. It looked backward compared to the crystal spires of his lost homeworld. But this backward world was going to save the galaxy, using methods that civilized beings had forgotten long ago. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways, even if it took the end of civilization to remember that truth. The war room in North American Defense Command buzzed with activity. Generals, admirals, and scientists worked around large tables covered with papers and computer screens. General Peter Clark stood at the center, looking at a holographic map of the solar system. Operation Primitive Strike is approved, he announced to the room. Every factory on Earth will switch to military production immediately. We're going to build the largest war fleet in human history. But this was not the kind of fleet the galaxy expected. While alien civilizations built ships with energy weapons and quantum computers, Earth's shipyards began producing something different. Ships with thick metal armor, railguns that fired solid metal slugs at incredible speeds, missile tubes loaded with nuclear warheads. Simple but effective. Lieutenant Commander Julie Adams walked through the hangar bay of the space station orbiting Mars. Her squadron of fighters looked crude compared to alien vessels. The ships had chemical rocket engines and metal hulls. Their weapons were basic, machine guns that fired depleted uranium bullets and missiles with high explosive warheads. Remember, Julie told her pilots, these swarm ships have never faced weapons like ours. Their adaptive armor is designed to counter energy beams, not solid projectiles moving at high speed. Her squadron launched from the station and headed toward Jupiter, where human sensors had detected a small swarm scouting force. 3 dark ships moved slowly through the asteroid belt, studying the primitive human technology with what seemed like curiosity. The enemy vessels were larger than the human fighters, their hulls covered in the same black material that had absorbed every energy weapon the galaxy could produce. Strange lights pulsed along their surfaces as they scanned the approaching humans. All ships, weapons free, Julie commanded. Target the lead vessel. Fire everything you have. 20 human fighters opened fire at the same time. Railgun slugs. Traveling at 20%, the speed of light slammed into the swarm ship's hull. The impact was tremendous. Chunks of black armor exploded outward as the kinetic energy tore through the alien vessel. The swarm ship tried to adapt, its hull shifting and changing to absorb the attack. But kinetic energy was different from the energy beams it was designed to counter. The physical force of solid projectiles could not be absorbed or redirected. It could only be endured or stopped by thicker armor. Nuclear missiles followed the railgun barrage. The atomic explosions lit up space like tiny suns. The swarm ship, designed to absorb directed energy, was overwhelmed by the massive release of explosive force. Its hull cracked and split. Internal fires burned through its corridors. "Target destroyed," reported one of Julie's pilots. "The other two ships are retreating." Back on Earth, the news of humanity's first victory spread quickly. For the first time since the swarm invasion began, someone had actually hurt the enemy. The aliens who had called humans primitive were suddenly very interested in talking. On the surface of Mars, Marine Sergeant Tony Miller led his squad through the ruins of an abandoned research station. Intelligence reports suggested that a small swarm force had landed here to study human technology. Tony's job was to show them what human ground combat looked like. The Marines carried weapons that would have seemed ancient to any alien observer. Assault rifles that fired chemical-propelled bullets. Grenade launchers loaded with high explosives. Flamethrowers that sprayed burning fuel. Simple, brutal, and effective. The swarm ground units they encountered were unlike anything in human military databases. They looked like spiders made of metal and flesh, with multiple arms ending in various weapons and tools. Their bodies pulsed with the same dark energy that powered their ships. "Contact front," Tony called out as the first swarm unit appeared around a corner. "Light them up." The Marines opened fire with everything they had. Bullets tore through the enemy's adaptive armor before it could adjust to the threat. High explosive. Grenades shattered the mechanical limbs. Flamethrowers burned away the organic components that held the creatures together. The swarm units tried to respond with their own weapons, but they were designed to fight enemies who used energy shields and quantum armor. Human Marines wore simple ballistic protection and used cover and movement to avoid enemy fire. It was basic infantry tactics that had not changed much in hundreds of years. Within minutes, the swarm ground force was destroyed. Tony's squad had taken no casualties. "Control, this is Miller," he reported over his radio. "Area secure. Enemy ground units neutralized. These things don't know how to fight real soldiers." News of the human victories reached the remnants of the Galactic Senate on their hidden fortress world. Ambassador Lisa Monroe found herself receiving communication requests from the same aliens who had rejected Earth's membership application. Just months before, High Counselor Aerith appeared on the holographic communicator first. The proud Sylvani leader looked desperate and afraid. Her beautiful tree-like appearance was marred by what looked like battle damage. "Ambassador Monroe," Aerith said, her voice much different from the mocking tone she had used before. "We have heard reports of human victories against the swarm. This cannot be accurate. Your primitive weapons should be ineffective against their adaptive technology." Lisa smiled coldly. "Our primitive weapons seem to work just fine, High Counselor. Perhaps that's because they're too primitive for the swarm to understand." Senator Vexthal joined the communication. The crystal being's light was dimmer than before, and cracks ran through his body like battle scars. "We request immediate military assistance. The swarm has taken 17 more worlds since yesterday. Our energy weapons remain ineffective." "I thought you said we needed to develop civilized weapons," Lisa replied. "I thought kinetic weapons were for cavemen and barbarians." "Please," Vexthal begged. "We were wrong. We admit it. Help us." Dr. Carter had been monitoring the communications from her laboratory. She made another breakthrough that day, studying captured swarm technology from the Mars battle. The enemy's adaptive systems were incredibly sophisticated, able to analyze and counter any energy-based attack within seconds. But they had never encountered anything like human warfare. The swarm's quantum processing systems were trying to understand chemical explosions and kinetic impacts, and failing. It was like using a supercomputer to solve a problem that required a hammer. On the mining world of Keltos, Colonel Steve Parker prepared for the largest human military operation since the war began. Intelligence reports indicated that the swarm had taken the planet and was using it as a staging area for further attacks. Steve's force included not just human soldiers, but volunteers from the surviving alien civilizations. Silvani, who had learned to use human rifles. Korgan warriors who carried human explosive charges. Even a few Etherians who had traded their energy weapons for chemical flamethrowers. The attack began at dawn, Keltos time. Human dropships, protected by thick armor and carrying simple but effective weapons, punched through the swarm's defensive network. The enemy had expected energy shields and quantum jammers, not metal boxes full of angry soldiers with chemical-powered weapons. The battle for Keltos lasted 6 hours. Human tactics, refined through centuries of warfare against other humans, proved devastatingly effective against an enemy that had never encountered such primitive approaches. Cover and movement, suppressive fire, explosive breaches, and close. Combat cleared the swarm from every installation on the planet. When the smoke cleared, Colonel Parker stood in the main swarm command center, watching human engineers plant nuclear charges in the enemy's quantum processing cores. The sophisticated alien technology that had been designed to counter every advanced weapon in the galaxy was about to be destroyed by weapons that any human child could understand. All units fall back to safe distance, Steve commanded. Detonation. In 60 seconds. The nuclear explosion lit up the sky of Keltos like a new sun. When the light faded, the swarm's staging area was gone, replaced by a crater of fused glass and twisted metal. Word of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The primitive humans from Earth, the barbarians who had been denied membership in civilized society, had won their first major battle against an enemy that had crushed every advanced civilization in its path. In the hidden chambers of the Galactic Senate, proud alien leaders who had once mocked humanity now gathered to discuss something they had never thought possible, asking the primitives for help. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the swarm invasion began, the galaxy had hope. And that hope came from the most unexpected source, a species too primitive to understand that their weapons should not work. But they worked anyway, because sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective ones. 6 months had passed since Earth's rejection by the Galactic Senate. Admiral Kate Robinson sat in the command center on Luna Base, watching screens full of data from their deep space listening posts. The aliens had built a blockade around Earth's solar system, but they could not stop radio waves and sensor readings from reaching human equipment. Kate saw on those screens made her blood run cold. The first reports came from the edge of the galaxy. Strange ships, massive and dark, had appeared from the empty space between galaxies. They moved in perfect formation, thousands of them, heading toward the civilized worlds of the Galactic Federation. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Tom Baker, his voice shaking, "we're getting emergency broadcasts from the Silvani homeworld. They're under attack." The main screen showed a recording from Silvaria. The beautiful planet was covered in cities that grew like living trees. Silvani ships, looking like giant flowers made of metal and crystal, moved to defend their world. The enemy ships looked different from anything humans had ever seen. They were black and twisted, like machines that had been fused with living things. Tentacles and metal arms stuck out from their hulls. Strange lights pulsed inside them like beating hearts. Kate watched in horror as the Sylvani energy weapons hit the enemy ships. The beams of pure light struck the dark hulls and simply disappeared. The alien vessels absorbed the energy attacks like sponges soaking up water. "Their weapons aren't working," whispered Dr. Carter, who had come to Luna Base to study the alien technologies. "The enemy ships are adapting to their energy weapons." The Sylvani ships tried to retreat, but the dark vessels were faster. Mechanical tentacles reached out and grabbed the beautiful living ships. In seconds, the Sylvani vessels were torn apart. Like flowers being ripped up by their roots. More reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Etherian homeworld was next. Senator Vexto's crystal cities shattered under the assault of the enemy fleet. Their quantum disruption weapons, so advanced that humans could barely understand them, had no effect on the attacking ships. Commander Sam Hayes led a small reconnaissance mission beyond the solar quarantine. His ship, the UES Scout, was built for stealth using human technology. Metal plating designed to scatter radar signals. Chemical-powered thrusters that left no energy signature. Simple electronics that could not be detected by advanced scanners. Sam and his crew watched from hiding as the Korgan Empire's main fleet tried to fight the invaders. General Korax led 300 warships into battle. Their plasma cannons and gravity weapons were the most powerful in the galaxy. It did not matter. The enemy ships moved through the plasma blasts without taking damage. Their hulls changed and shifted, adapting to each new weapon that hit them. When the Korgan ships fired gravity weapons that could crush planets, the enemy vessels simply absorbed the gravitational forces and used them to move faster. "They're learning," Sam reported back to Earth. "Every time the aliens use a weapon, these things figure out how to counter it. It's like they're designed to fight advanced civilizations." The dark ships surrounded the Korgan fleet. Boarding pods shot out from the enemy vessels and attached to the proud warrior ships. Sam could hear the battle cries of Korgan soldiers over the radio, but the sounds quickly turned to screams and then silence. Within an hour, the entire Korgan fleet was gone. Back on Earth, Dr. Carter studied every piece of data they could gather about the enemy. She called them the Devourer Swarm because they consumed everything in their path. Ships, planets, entire civilizations disappeared into their dark hulls. "Look at this pattern," Amy said, pointing to charts on her computer screen. "Every advanced civilization in the galaxy uses energy-based weapons. Plasma beams, quantum disruptors, gravity cannons. All of them project energy at their targets." Admiral Robinson leaned over to look at the data. "And these devourers can absorb that energy?" "More than that," Amy replied. "They're designed to fight enemies who use energy weapons. Their hulls adapt and counter every type of advanced technology the galaxy has developed. But look at this." She pulled up older files from Earth's military archives. Pictures of tanks and fighter jets, soldiers with rifles and grenades, ships with missile launchers and railguns. "We don't use energy weapons as our primary force," Amy continued. "We still use kinetic weapons, metal bullets fired by chemical explosions, missiles with explosive warheads, nuclear weapons that release energy through atomic reactions, not directed energy beams." Captain Williams had been listening from across the room. He walked over to join the conversation. "You're saying our primitive weapons might actually work against these things?" "I'm saying they've never encountered weapons like ours," Amy said. "Their adaptive systems are built to counter sophisticated energy-based attacks. They might not know how to handle simple kinetic force and chemical explosions." More reports came in from across the galaxy. The Galactic Senate had fled their crystal world and was now hiding on a heavily defended fortress planet called Haven. Their quantum computers could not predict where the swarm would attack next. Their energy shields offered no protection against The enemy's physical assault methods dot the proud alien civilizations that had mocked Earth just months before were now desperate and afraid. Their advanced technology, the same technology they had used to justify calling humans primitive, was useless against this new enemy. Admiral Robinson called an emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council. Military leaders from every nation gathered. In the secure conference room deep beneath the Cheyenne Mountain complex, "The galaxy is burning," Kate told them. "Every advanced civilization out there is losing this war. Their energy weapons don't work. Their quantum computers can't figure out the enemy's plans. Their sophisticated defenses are being torn apart." General Peter Clark, the head of Earth's combined military forces, studied the tactical reports. "What about their numbers? How many of these swarm ships are there?" "Conservative estimates put them at over 50,000 vessels," Captain Williams replied. "And they're building more. Every ship they destroy, every planet they consume, seems to make them stronger." "Recommendations?" General Clark asked. Dr. Carter stood up. "We need to test our weapons against them. If I'm right, our kinetic weapons and chemical explosives might be effective. The swarm has adapted to counter every advanced technology in the galaxy, but they've never faced primitive human warfare." Admiral Robinson nodded slowly. "We're talking about breaking the quarantine. If we're wrong, we'll be starting a war we can't win." "The war has already started," Captain Williams said grimly. "The question is whether we're going to hide behind our quarantine while the galaxy burns, or whether we're going to show these aliens what primitive humans can really do." Outside Luna Base's windows, Earth hung in space like a blue marble. It looked peaceful and small compared to the vast galaxy beyond. But on that small world, 5 billion humans were preparing for a war that would determine the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. The Galactic Senate had called them primitive. Now they would discover what primitives could accomplish when civilized beings had already failed. Lisa Monroe walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Senate chamber. Her heart was beating fast. Behind her, 3 other humans followed. Captain Jake Williams wore his best military uniform. Dr. Amy Carter carried a briefcase full of Earth's scientific data. Ambassador Paul Davis had practiced his speech for weeks. The chamber was huge. Crystal walls reached up so high that Lisa could not see the ceiling. 12 different alien species sat in floating chairs around a circular table. Each one looked different from the others. Some had blue skin. Others had tentacles instead of arms. A few looked like walking rocks. Lisa had dreamed of this moment for years. Earth wanted to join the Galactic Federation. They wanted to be part of the big family of space civilizations. She believed today would change everything for humanity. Senator Vexthel spoke first. He was from the Etherian race. His body looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through his skin when he talked. "So these are the humans from Earth," he said. His voice sounded like breaking glass. "Tell us why we should let primitives join our advanced society." Lisa stepped forward. "We come in peace. Earth has much to offer the galaxy. Our people are brave and smart. We have learned to travel between stars. We have built cities and cured diseases." High Counselor Aerith laughed. She was a Sylvani, tall and thin like a tree. Her skin was green, and her hair moved like leaves in the wind. "You call chemical rockets space travel? We moved past such crude methods 10,000 years ago. Show them the recordings, Vexthel." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed human spaceships flying through space. The ships had flames coming out of the back. They moved slowly compared to the alien vessels nearby. "Look at this," said General Corax from the Korgan Empire. He was big and covered in thick armor. Battle scars covered his face. They still use fire to push their ships. Fire, like cavemen. making tools with sticks and stones. More holograms appeared. They showed human soldiers fighting with guns that shot metal bullets. They showed tanks rolling across battlefields. They showed nuclear weapons exploding. Kinetic weapons, Aerith said with disgust. They throw rocks at each other. Rocks made of metal, but still rocks. Where are their energy beams? Where are their quantum disruptors? Senator Zephyr from the Aquatic Union bubbled his words through water-filled breathing gear. Their computers are so simple. They use electricity moving through metal wires. We transcended such limitations ages ago. Our thoughts flow through quantum networks that span entire star systems. Captain Williams stepped forward. His face was red with anger. Our weapons work just fine. Our soldiers are the best in known space. We have won every war we have ever fought. This made the aliens laugh even harder. General Corax pounded his armored fist on the table. Wars against who? Other primitive humans? You have never faced a real enemy. You know nothing of true warfare. Dr. Carter opened her briefcase. We have brought samples of our technology. Our medical advances have eliminated diseases that killed millions. Our computers can process enormous amounts of information. Our manufacturing can build anything we need. Senator Vexthal waved his crystal hand. The holograms changed to show alien technology. Ships that moved faster than light without any visible engines. Weapons that could destroy entire planets with beams of pure energy. Computers the size of atoms that could think faster than any. Human brain. This is real technology, Vexthal said. This is what advanced civilizations create. You are children playing with toys. Come back in 1,000 years when you have grown up. The other senators nodded their agreement. Some made sounds that Lisa guessed were alien laughter. A few looked bored, as if the humans were wasting their time. Ambassador Davis tried one last time. Please, we only ask for a chance. Let us prove ourselves. Give us membership, and we will show you what humans can do. The vote is simple, said Aerith. All in favor of granting Earth membership in the Galactic Federation? Not a single alien raised their hand or tentacle or crystal arm. All opposed? Every senator voted against Earth. Motion denied. Vexthal announced. Earth is classified as a pre-stellar primitive species. You are forbidden from leaving your solar system until you develop proper technology. The Galactic Defense Fleet will establish a quarantine perimeter around your sun. Lisa felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. All their hopes and dreams crashed down in that moment. The other humans looked just as shocked. Perhaps in another millennium, Aerith said with a cruel smile, when you have learned to fight with energy instead of explosions, when you can think, with quantum consciousness instead of electrical circuits, when you have become civilized, we might consider your request again. The aliens began to leave their floating chairs. The meeting was over. Earth had been rejected completely. Captain. Williams clenched his fists. You will regret this decision, he said quietly. General Corax heard him and laughed. Regret it? What could primitives like you possibly do to advanced civilizations like ours? You cannot even leave your own star system now. The humans walked back through the crystal doors. Their ship, the ESS Liberty, waited for them in the space dock. Its fusion engines and metal hull looked ancient compared to the alien vessels around it. As they prepared to leave, none of them noticed the long-range sensors picking up massive signals from the edge of the galaxy. Something very large was moving through the darkness between stars. Something that had been watching and waiting. The Galactic Senate had made their choice. They thought they were safe in their advanced civilization. They thought their energy weapons and quantum computers made them strong. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The S-Liberty flew away from Zentari Prime, carrying 4 angry humans back to their primitive world. Behind them, the crystal planet sparkled with the light of 1,000 alien technologies. In the depths of space, ancient machines began to move.